He fired me on a Monday so casually it almost sounded like a joke, like he was testing whether I'd snap or cry or beg. His office smelled like burned coffee and stress, both things he caused, and he didn't even look up when he said it. "We're letting you go, Ryan," he mumbled, eyes fixed on his monitor as if the pixels were more important than the life he was tossing away. "Budget cuts, restructuring, you know how it is." I knew exactly how it was. The company wasn't cutting costs. The company wasn't restructuring. The company was doing great, booming, even. What was happening was simple. My boss, Clyde, wanted to clear out anyone he couldn't control, anyone who knew too much, or anyone who showed enough talent to threaten him. I was all three. I stood there waiting for him to at least face me, but the coward kept typing. After 6 years of putting my soul into that place, building systems that saved them millions, smoothing over deals Clyde nearly wrecked, staying late without overtime, covering weekends, holidays, birthdays, he fired me like I was a line item in a spreadsheet. He finally raised his head. "HR has your paperwork. Security will escort you out." When he looked at me, I realized something. He actually expected to see me crumble. Maybe that was the reward for him, the power trip, the satisfaction of knowing he could flick his wrist and end someone's stability. But he didn't get it from me. I nodded once. "Okay." That bothered him. His brow twitched. People like Clyde needed reactions the way plants need sunlight. So I walked out, calm, too calm for his comfort. Security met me halfway down the hall. I handed over my badge, smiled politely. They looked embarrassed. It wasn't their first time doing Clyde's dirty work. I walked out of that building with nothing but my backpack and the certainty that something inside me had snapped into place the moment he fired me. I wasn't broken. I was awake. By the time I reached the parking lot, the humiliation had burned off and left something much sharper behind. Clarity. The kind that's cold, razor-edged, and almost comforting. He didn't just fire me. He freed me. I went home, sat on my couch, and for the first time in years, I breathed without feeling a weight on my chest. And then I got to work, not on a resume, not on job applications, but on something far more interesting. Everything Clyde had taught me, every insult, every manipulation, every time he took credit for my work, came back like puzzle pieces snapping into a perfect picture. I knew his weaknesses. I knew the company's weaknesses. I knew exactly how the place was run, who really kept it alive, where its vulnerabilities were, and most importantly, who secretly hated him enough to work with me. I didn't want revenge at first. I wanted justice. I wanted freedom. But by Tuesday afternoon, after he leaked a statement implying I was fired for performance issues, revenge started sounding perfectly reasonable. It didn't take long to gather allies, people who whispered to me the moment the news spread. "You should have been the one running the place. He's been dead weight for years. Tell me how to help." They weren't hard to find. The truth was, the company, Greytech Innovators, didn't run because of Clyde. It survived despite him. On Wednesday morning, I met with an investor who'd once pitched to the company only for Clyde to insult him so badly he walked out before the presentation ended. The guy remembered me, the one who apologized, who tried to salvage the deal, who treated him like a human being. He greeted me with a grin. "I heard you're free now." "More like released back into the wild," I joked. He leaned back. "So what are you planning?" I took a breath. "I want to buy Greytech." He didn't laugh. That's how I knew he saw it too, the potential, the cracks in the system, the opening. "Tell me everything," he said. So I did. I spelled out every financial misstep Clyde buried, every innovation I created that Greytech never fully capitalized on, every patent they neglected, every revenue stream they ignored. I showed him projections, real ones, not the inflated nonsense Clyde fed investors. I showed him a roadmap for growth. But I didn't stop there. I told him about the internal rot, the toxic culture, the high turnover rate, the lawsuits Clyde paid to make disappear, the staff members planning to leave the moment they could afford to. The investor leaned forward, eyes gleaming. You're telling me this place could triple in value within 2 years with the right leadership? Easily, I said, but not with Clyde running it. He tapped his chin. And you want to remove him? Not remove, I said. Replace. He smiled. So not a coup, a correction. The deal wasn't guaranteed. It wasn't even safe. But by Wednesday night, the investor agreed to back me under one condition. If I was going to take over, I had to prove that the employees would support me. I texted 6 people. By Thursday morning, 33 employees had signed a statement saying they'd walk if Clyde continued as CEO. By noon, that number grew to 50. By 3 p.m., the investor called me. Start the paperwork. I didn't sleep Thursday night. My brain buzzed with adrenaline and disbelief. I was buying the company that fired me, legally, cleanly, strategically. Nothing about it was revenge. Until Friday. Because Friday was the day I walked back into Gray Tech for the first time since being escorted out, this time with the investor and a lawyer beside me. Clyde stumbled out of his office looking shocked, angry, and maybe a little afraid. What the hell is he doing here? He demanded. The investor smiled. He's here because he owns the controlling shares now. The look on Clyde's face was better than any revenge fantasy I'd ever imagined. His jaw dropped. His phone slipped right out of his hand and clattered on the floor. That's impossible, he sputtered. Very possible, I said. You ignored 3 shareholder warnings, misreported quarterly expenditures, and used company funds for personal trips. That alone was enough to open the vote. You lost. His face turned red. I built this place. No, I said calmly. You bullied it, other people built it. I built half the systems running it. You're a nobody, he snapped. I shrugged. Then you should have treated me like a nobody. Instead, you made me the only person determined enough to take your throne. Get out, he ordered. The investor stepped in. You're the one being asked to leave, effective immediately. Security, 2 of the same guys who escorted me out Monday, walked up behind him. Karma doesn't always knock. Sometimes it escorts you out quietly. As they walked Clyde out, he shouted over his shoulder, You'll never run this place without me. I called after him, Watch me. And I did. I walked into the CEO office, his office, and sat down in his chair. It didn't feel like vengeance. It felt like balance restoring itself, like the universe had been tilted for too long and finally it was straight again. The office staff gathered outside the glass walls, watching with wide eyes and hopeful smiles. These people weren't looking at me like a savior. They were looking at the future. I stood and opened the door. First order of business, I said. Everyone who wants to stay, stays. Everyone who wants to leave gets severance equal to what they deserve, not what Clyde offered. A few people teared up. Second order of business, I continued. We rebuild this company into what it should have been years ago. A cheer broke out. I learned something that day. Revenge isn't the moment you strike back. Revenge is the moment life rearranges itself so that the person who underestimated you finally sees who you really are. By Friday, I owned the company of the man who fired me. By Monday, employees said the place felt like breathing fresh air after years of choking. By the next month, we'd landed 2 massive contracts Clyde lost because of his ego. By 6 months, Gray Tech was reborn. And Clyde? Rumor says he tried starting his own consulting agency. It failed in 3 weeks. People don't want to work with a man who destroys everything he touches, especially when evidence of his incompetence is now public record. Me? I don't think about him. Not because I've forgiven him, but because he's irrelevant. When he fired me, he thought he was ending my story. He didn't know he was starting the best chapter. He didn't know he pushed me toward ownership, toward leadership, toward a version of myself I'd forgotten existed. He didn't know that the man he fired on Monday would be signing his termination papers on Friday. He didn't know I'd rise. But I did. And I'm just getting started.